end up working in these two. This is the second section. That is, once you have data, what do you do first, right? You actually build dashboards. It's a fancy name for simple reporting and dashboarding. And if you ask me, for a lot of the CXOs, like your CEO, CFO, CM, Chief Marketing Officer, etc., what is more important to them is this mere reporting, rather than a complicated data science or AI applications. Because for them, what they are more interested to know is, how much sales did I make last quarter in my 4 different regions? How much revenue did I make out of my 10 different brands? And that there is no sophisticated rocket science in doing reporting that out. And that kind of work is called business insights, and that is extremely important, equally important. What comes on top of that is the realm that you seem to be specializing in, is advanced analytics. That is where it becomes a little more complicated and fancy. And trust me, this part is only 10% of, not this part is only 10%, this plus this is only 10% of what the business takes out of data. 80% of the work is done in this space. Okay, but this is not to degrade the importance of this, but that's how the world is. And this is another term which you would have heard quite often, and I would say that's kind of a talk of the town. And to me, these are two sides of the same coin. But there is a slight difference in the way in which people see these two. The way I interpret it is anything to do with predictive modeling, forecasting, segmentation, all of that will fall into the realm of advanced analytics. And then there is what we call cognitive computing. Cognitive computing is nothing but when you program and or when you create a program which can think like a human being. For example, reading a book. That's an activity that's typically done by a human being. Now, when you try to create a computer program to mimic that, that's cognitive computing, right? Watching a scene, or rather, let's say, observing people moving on the street, right, or in a store. If you want to observe people in a store, what do? You would typically keep cameras in the store, and you can watch them on the screen, and then figure out, make your own conclusions on what is happening in the store. That's a human activity, and that's something that you use human brain for. You can replicate a machine learning algorithm to do the same thing using computer vision. Excuse me. Give me a minute. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Okay. So that is, again, that falls under the realm of artificial intelligence. Okay, and then there is big data. I wouldn't really call this out as a separate type of analytics, because now this is kind of become the norm. 20 years back, when I started my career, it used to be like small sets of data. The clients would send us data sets which is manageable. But that's not the situation now. That somewhere around 2010, this thing called big data came into existence, which was nothing but Uh, Huge computing power, which is enhanced both the storage of data as well as processing of data. Now, most organizations have big data lakes. Data is no more small. So ideally, I wouldn't call this out as a fourth piece. Yeah, but you will come across this term quite a lot. That's why I just put it there. Now, with this, this is, I mean, I generally use this slide to explain the complexity of analytics. And what I have described in this section is from this part, okay? It's actually advanced analytics and not really information management and business insights. Now, this kind of gives you an, I'm sure, are you guys familiar with some of these techniques at least, which I have written down? You must be, right?
Yes.
Can I see a show of hands? Yeah. So probably you already know, but I'll just give you my perspective, the way I see it, and how this entire thing fits in, right? Imagine you going to a doctor, right? So what happens when you go visit a doctor? The doctor asks you what is wrong with you, and you start describing what's wrong with you. And when you describe those symptoms, basically you talk about your symptoms, the doctor actually does a diagnostics of from the symptoms that you describe. He or she deducts what the problem is, right? So let's say it's migraine. And what does he do mentally? He actually will tell you, or rather try and assess how bad this is. And if you continue in this situation, what's going to happen to you? He actually is making a prediction on your condition. And when he kind of figures out that with this situation of migraine that you are in, you are going to end up in a pretty bad shape in the next 6 months. He's made his prediction. He actually prescribes you some medicines. Why is he doing that? He's trying to fix this problem. The problem which he predicted that you will end up with, he is trying to optimize the solution. Okay, and maybe you will never get rid of migraine altogether, but he can suggest you an optimized state where you may still have migraine, but you wouldn't have to suffer too much. So he prescribes you the medicine, right? So from the information that you gave to the doctor, he actually suggests an optimized solution. That is exactly what happens with data also. Like I said, generally CXOs, let's take a marketing situation. A CMO would typically want to know what's happening, right? What's happening with sales. So you have a lot of reports which actually says that this much is the sales our company made in these 4 regions, 10 product lines, 250 brands. From that, so that those are basically descriptions, right? And that description, and I'm sure you must have learned it in your basic statistics class, the descriptive analytics is all of this, right? Once you know that, a lot of times a CMO would want to understand, especially if there is a dip in sales, right? Why did it happen? Why did the sales go down? So that's back to how your doctor is trying to do a diagnostics. And if once you get into a job, right, and a lot of these diagnostics does not require data science. Some basic correlations, trend analysis, and a lot of the times, when as a consultant, when you're dealing with a problem like this, you will have to have a lot of external context. For example, you should be able to correlate the dip in the sales with the competitors' heavy marketing, or a problem with the economy because there was depression, GDP fell, there was drought or something, right? So it needs a lot of common sense and this market information to do this thing. So your advanced analytics actually starts from there, or your data science starts from there. Again, here, why did it happen? Your sales, why did it go down? What will happen in this condition? What can happen to my sales? So there you enter your realm of predictive analytics. And typically, these are some of the techniques which you would have studied by now. I'm not sure what is the mix of the crowd, whether you're all first years or second years, and how much you have covered. But at least if people in the final year, you would probably have studied some of these. So that's when you typically do a prediction of where my sales is going to go. And especially if it's a downward trend, the next question comes, what can be done? So that's where you enter prescriptive analytics. And typically this section is it's not a typical data science. This is operations research. I am not sure if operations research is part of your study, but typically that's what mechanical engineers specialize in for their MS or PhD programs, and that's generally seen as a area of mechanical engineers. But that's what is needed. Operations research optimization techniques is what is needed for you come do prescriptive analytics. I'm not sure whether you're learning that. If you are, well and good. Otherwise, I would suggest even as a elective or your self-study, it would be good to do that course. Because a lot of cases, for example, I'll talk about some of those later. Market mix model, that's a very common thing that you will end up doing if you enter data science domain in marketing analytics. So market mix modeling, I think I probably have it in one of the next slides. Market mix modeling is nothing but, see, most companies, especially big companies, they have huge marketing budgets. In fact, marketing is where most companies spend 20-25% of their annual budget. So they would like to do it right. And generally, when you do marketing, there are different media. You do marketing through different media vehicles. Even though social media is nowadays a preferred mode for marketing, you will still have TV ads. We still have a lot of TV ads with celebrity endorsement, right? So there is money that you have to spend on those celebrities. So there is TV ad, there is paper ad, there are flyers, there are billboards on the roadside, which you will find billboards of Samsung and HP and all of that. Then there is social media, and then there is in-store marketing campaign. Like when we are all stuck at home now, but in the pre-COVID era, if you remember, when you go into a store like a Chroma or someplace, then there will be instant promotions of certain brands happening in store. That's your in-store campaign. So from your total marketing budget, yeah.
Namaste, WiBD.
From your total marketing budget, you actually have to allocate to each of these media vehicles. So how do you do that? Right? So typically what you do there, you will take your sales data and build a regression analysis. It's actually a regression analysis with your sales being your dependent variable and all your marketing spend. It's actually not your marketing spend. There's something called TRPs and impressions and all which you take. But yeah, consider that all your marketing spends are your independent variables. So when you do a regression like that, what it will tell you is of all the different vehicles that I have spent my money on, which one of them contributed the most to my sales, right? So once you do the regression, and you probably know by now what is the interpretation of beta coefficient. So your beta coefficients will give you that assessment. It's not that simple, by the way. I'm just trying to give you a simplified version. But you will get an impression on what is the impact each of the media vehicle is having on sales. Now with that, you really cannot make even though beta coefficient is to some extent a measure of impact. To answer the question, where do I put my money most? You actually have to do optimization, because then you try and figure out, if I have to maximize my sales, how do I align these different marketing spends? So that's why I said if it's not covered in your syllabus, I would suggest you to learn operations research as an elective or a self-study course. Okay, so this is what the main theme of today's topic is: which business function gets benefited, right? Any guesses, or can you give me some examples? And you'll have to give me examples by saying, you say HR, you'll have to give me an example. Where do you think analytics is applied in HR? Can I get a couple of responses, please?
Ma'am, I'll just try. I'm not sure, but like in HR, they basically do. They analyze how many employees are being hired by the company, or how many employees they have let go of at that particular point of time. So through that, they analyze the functioning of the company as well.
Okay. Yeah, that's a tip of the iceberg. Yeah, but anything else can?
Ma'am,
yeah.
Ma'am, the finance department, because they get to know where exactly to put the funds in, and where to get the funding from, and where to put it in use.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yes, finance is another. So I just for because we don't have much time, this is what I have put. I'll tell you. I'll just give you one example each. Customer intelligence. These two, I would say, takes up a majority of chunk. Okay. And most of us are digital users, and every company, for example, now they will track your they can track your digital behavior. So and that portfolio itself is huge. What do you know about your customer, right? So there's a lot of work people do with data on that, including your post-purchase behavior, your pre-purchase behavior. That's a whole lot of analytics that gets done. Sales and marketing, I gave you some example of marketing prediction, sales forecasting. Finance, I think the lady who just explained how you can do an optimization kind of thing by understanding where does the funds come from and where do I put it. Yes, again in finance also, budgeting is a big area. So in budgeting, people always try to do good forecasting and optimization. Supply chain. I don't know to how much extent this is been covered in your syllabus, but inventory management and supply chain and logistics, it's a huge, and if in operations research, what I talked about is actually a stream which developed around supply chain. And it's an old stream. Okay, it's not like your computer vision or natural language processing, which are things that have come up in the last 10 years. Supply chain problems are like centuries old. That's one of the oldest streams in the realm of data science. And there are companies like UPS, McDonald's, and most of the American freight company like flight and transportation companies and freight companies, they all have very dedicated operations research department. UPS, for example, I don't know if you have read this, but for UPS, the number of steps the driver of the truck takes to deliver consignment is scientifically established and designed. McDonald's, the way their layout is designed is an output of operations research. So supply chain is one area. HR, I liked the idea that lady said, but you think about the other end. She started with how many people do we take? The more important factor for HR is why do people leave, right? And this is a fundamental concept which you would have studied even in marketing, that it is easier to retain customers than acquire a new one. So most companies, including your employees for that matter, people like to retain customers rather than, because going out and hiring somebody from the market is always super expensive. And you spend a lot of time on interviews and sourcing. Nobody wants to do that until and unless there is actually need for more people. So most organizations typically try to retain their customers. So that is customer churn. That word, that's called customer churn. So when it comes to HR, it's employee churn. Customer churn is another thing that's done in customer intelligence. So in HR also there's a lot of analytics done. Operations, I will club operations in supply chain. I think I did give a few examples. So this is at a high level, all the business function which gets benefit. I have a couple of slides for marketing analytics, production, and finance. I tried to spend like 5 minutes each on each slide, and we will probably take another 10 minutes for question and answers. Yeah, I think, yeah, I have covered a couple of them already. Yeah, but let me talk about one interesting thing that companies always do. Market segmentation or customer segmentation. And that is, if you have studied your cluster analysis or neural network models. Neural network models is basically just another use case, but cluster analysis is much more appropriate. It's typically done to do customer segmentation, because most companies, they don't want to waste their money and carpet bomb everybody. They would like to target their marketing spend it wisely on those prospective customers whom they think will get converted or from whom they think they'll get more business. So, and something like cluster analysis is what is typically done. Customer segmentation is one. Then I talked about churn models. Equally important is something called customer lifetime value. Things have changed. Like when I started my career, it used to be different. And if you studied a little bit of finance, you would have studied net present value. If you have studied net present value, you will understand it's a concept of discounted cash flow. That's what net present value is. So in that context, every company tries to assume that a customer is there with them for their entire lifetime. Meaning they are not going to attrite. They are not going to switch brands. They're your customers and they are your customers for a lifetime. So in that scenario, you make a projection and you typically give a number for your lifetime. Let's say you say 60 years. If you're a bank, you might put 60 years as a lifetime of a customer and say that because he started his account with you at the age of 20, you assume that he's going to stay with you for another 60 years. And you try to predict in those 60 years, what all products or services is that person going to buy from you. And if he bought what you think he will buy, what is the money that the company will get? And while doing that, this concept of net present value comes because you're projecting into the future. You're projecting into 25 years, 50 years down the lane, which you don't know what is the worth of that money now, right? So that's why you discount it back to the present situation. So your future money is discounted and then that becomes a net present value. So that is another typical thing, customer lifetime value, that is done in marketing. This is what I talked about, market mix models. Yeah, I think let me move on to this so that I cover at least 3 functions. Production, right? So if you look at a production pipeline, I don't know how many of you have had the opportunity to specialize or learn more about operations in this group, but if you have done an operation specialization, or if you've worked in a factory floor, you will understand most of the factory floor, you can break them into 3. There is a procurement section, which is where you get all the materials you need and get them stored in a warehouse. And then there is a production process. So from warehouse, this is the raw material warehouse. All the raw material is taken to the production line. Whatever is getting manufactured, it could be a car, it could be a plastic bottle, whatever it is, gets produced and then gets stored again. Okay. And then there is a shipment. So from your finished goods inventory or warehouse, there is an outbound. This was inbound logistics, this is outbound. Then it goes to your retailers or dealers or whoever you want to supply this to. Now, in these 3 sections, there's a lot of analytics that's possible. Starting with raw material forecasting, because if you need to have a smooth production line, you need to have a very good, that's why I said this is a decade old, not decade, a century old stream, analytics in production, operations and supply chain. Because this is one area where you need precision with respect to prediction and management, right? So you need to clearly, so if you've done operations management, you will studied inventory management. There is people from economics background would probably know there is reorder level, there is inventory stock out, there's a whole stream of econometrics way of computing reorder level and reorder quantity. It's a very scientifically calculated one. So these are all areas where you can use analytics in production. Okay. Then we'll touch upon finance. One bright lady did mention about finance. There's a whole lot of work because, and finance especially, it's a number game, right? Finance is by nature very conducive for analytics. So there's a lot of things that you do in finance. For example, accounts receivable or collection analysis. Generally, collection analysis is nothing but all businesses run on credit. So when you sell on credit, you also need to collect back the money from your debtors. And there is, people put a whole machinery of people going out and collecting. But there is also an analytics which is done there where you try to predict who are the defaulters, who are the people who are likely not to pay up, right? That gives a lot of insight into companies, and they will mostly prioritize their collection based on these scores. So these are all scoring that's done. Then, like I said, there's always forecasting, because your financial planning and analysis always needs a good forecasting on where your money is going and how much you will be spending. And the spend, that's another interesting area in which we work on quite a lot. You generally would like to analyze your spend, how you are spending, and can you make a prediction out of that? Where am I likely to spend in the next year, so that you can prioritize your resources. Yeah, I think we are slightly, okay, it's only 5:12. The session is till 5:30, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, okay, fine. Maybe I can spend some time for taking questions. But maybe I'll just spend a few more. Yeah, price modeling, especially people from economics background will know that price modeling, price elasticity is something that is done very much in a lot of business organizations. And then there's your typical demand supply equilibrium calculations, but there is also price elasticity, to do which you actually will need your past sales data, where you will look at what quantity got sold at different price points, and you would try to do an optimization there to see, obviously you would always like to price it the maximum. That's what will get you more revenue, but you will also look at what people are willing to pay, and then fix a price. So that branch is called price elasticity study. That is also something that is done. In vendor management, like there's a lot of analytics that happens around vendor management. Again, coming back to the issues of people not paying up, default payment, late payment. These are all slight advanced analytics that gets done in the realm of vendor management. Yeah, I think I will stop here. Let me see. Are there questions on the chat window? Should I check? Okay.
Thank you, ma'am, for sharing your valuable insights on exploring the impact of analytics on business. The in-depth knowledge of analytics surely helped us horizon of knowledge even more. I am sure it was very fruitful for all the budding data scientists and analysts among us today. Anybody who has any questions now can type them in the chat box, or you could unmute yourself and ask. Ma'am, there's a question in the chat box.
There is? Okay. Before that, I just wanted to comment on something somebody, Yesh has mentioned, sentiment analysis for, what is this, HT or HR?
It was HR, ma'am.
HR, okay. Yeah, that's interesting. So more than HR, I would say sentiment analysis for consumers is a stream that's done very extensively. And in fact, me and my team, we do quite a lot of work. So there is that school of work itself is called social media listening. Okay. So especially nowadays, more than customer surveys, people like to understand what customers are talking about them in social media. So yes, it is sentiment analysis that's done. But the thing is, there are a lot of off-the-shelf products available, which can any sentiment analysis tool basically takes a text or a comment and categorizes into positive, negative, or neutral. And some of them will give you gradations. But there's also another interesting thing that gets done, especially in the advanced analytics space. That's topic modeling. That is when you collect a whole lot of text, let's say from social media, on what customers are talking about you, you mine that. It's kind of a cluster analysis actually. So all of these topics will get cluttered in groups, and then you will be clearly able to understand what is that people are talking about, like as in segments. That's an interesting thing, okay? And that is also something, and you do it for HR also, especially you take this during exit interview. Every company, when people leave, there's always an exit interview, and people are allowed to express their opinion about the company in a free form. And nowadays, people are asked to type it out. That is done. That's again done to understand what people feel about their companies. Okay. Given that analysis will take some amount of expenses, will company be better off without those expenses and work without the analysis? Okay. So if that's correct me if I'm wrong. Are you asking me why should companies do analysis? Is that the question? Because they'll end up paying people like me. Should you even be analyzing the data? Is that the question?
Yes, ma'am, I guess precisely.
Okay. You guys will not end up without a job then. Why are you specializing in data science? I don't know. It's a funny question, I would say. If nobody, analysis is something not just organizations, all of us do, right? That's what human beings are tuned to do. Even when you have hear a friend of yours talking to you or making some remark about you, you start thinking, hey, why did this guy say this, right? He's not smiling at me. Why is he not smiling at me? That is analysis. That's simple analysis. And that's human nature. And that is also, and again, that's a capability only humans are capable of. Animals cannot think like that, right? So, and why would you not want to do that? Obviously, you'll have to pay. Yes, otherwise you would not even have a job, right? So I probably, I hope that question was asked in a light note.
No, ma'am, I think he meant, what he meant is that, like, if we don't do those expenses that we do on analysis, so like, will the company be better off or will it be worse off? Like,
it will definitely be worse off. I'm sure at some point as MBA students, you have learned something called cost benefit analysis, right? For every project, there is a cost, you do a cost benefit analysis. And there are some things where the cost is so prohibitive, expensive, that you won't do it. That is also a decision a lot of organizations make, that it's too costly, that the benefit I get out of that does not justify the cost. In such cases, you just will not do it. Yes, that's also done. But those are like huge costs. Yeah. Okay, good question. Okay, Purvi. And it's something you guys should know, but since I came to know that you're all doing data science specialization, I thought this question is not relevant to you. But I will tell you how, I will tell you how we recruit, okay? Yeah, somebody was asking something?
Yes, ma'am. We have students outside Christ University also.
Okay,
They are
okay.
doing it.
Yeah, so let me tell you the way we do hiring. And when I say, even in some of my previous companies, we used to do like that. So typically we will hire, and we hire mainly BTechs, and yes, MBAs also we do hire. So when we hire, it's generally for a data analyst role. So to hire somebody as a data scientist, one, we would look for a course like your Christ University's course where people have specialized in data science, and you have had some exposure to Python programming or statistics, some bit of data science element. Otherwise, most companies, and it's not just us, it's the Infosys of the world, the Mu Sigmas of the world. Most of you, when you get hired in the data analytics organization, is highly likely to start as a data analyst. And only if you have an aptitude, and most places will test you whether you're good enough to be groomed as a data scientist, will you be given a chance to move over to a data scientist role. Yeah, but that's how, and like I said, it's an 80-20 split. 80% of the work is data analysis and not really a data scientist role. So you probably you may not get to choose until and unless your CV is very strong to say that, hey, hire me as a data scientist and not as a data analyst, right? But otherwise, you would most likely be hired as a data analyst. Is analysis generally used for insights or sorting out any issue? Yes, definitely yes. In my slides, I showed you the insight slide, like I said, information management, business insights, advanced analytics. The market mix problem that I talked about, that is sorting out an issue. You have a problem in mind. I need to spend my marketing budget in the most efficient manner. Where do I spend, right? I have a lot of customers churning. How do I stop them from churning? That's when you do a customer churn model to understand why do people churn. So I actually did not talk about any of the insights. I think every example that I talked about was sorting out an issue. Maybe I didn't specifically call out what that issue is, but my last 20 minutes of narration was all on solving a business problem, not generating insights. I'm sorry,
Yes,
that
ma'am.
message
I
didn't come.
think no, ma'am. It came through because I was just thinking about it since until now I've only learned about gathering insights from some data set. I haven't really thought about sorting out an issue, so that's why I asked, ma'am.
Okay.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank
Does
you.
anybody have any other questions they would like to ask, ma'am? We'll
Okay.
we'll move forward now. And we have with us today Dr. Soumya Moni, co-director of WiBD, who has joined us.
Oh.
And I would like to
Okay.
address the gathering.
I
If
didn't
it
know
is
you were
Dr.
joining.
Bindu's session, then I have to attend, right? So, so great to be here. And Bindu, I'm so happy that you were able to do this session and take out time. And I missed out the first 20 minutes, but definitely I think the learnings, I hope the students found it useful. You spoke about marketing and cluster analysis, something which we are so used to doing in marketing campaigns and running products and, pricing, modeling. So hopefully, at least in the folks who are attending, at least the students who are attending from Christ, if you're looking at specialization in marketing, these are some of the things that you need to learn as part of and your analysis, whether you're launching a product, whether you're looking for customer behavior, or you're looking to even doing pricing of products. The 4 P's, right, in marketing. I think a lot of it is data driven now. So hopefully, I think you all found this session useful. And thank you, Bindu, for sharing your insights as well, and for collaborating with us in Women in Big Data.
Thank you, Soumya.
Thank you
Pleasure
so
was
much.
mine.
Thank you, ma'am. The feedback form for this session is shared to you in the chat box. Everybody's requested to kindly fill it after the session ends.
I think there is a question, Pratna, and that's an area of interest to me. In a chart value chain of analytics, you have mentioned game theory. Does it work? How people will analyze? Question is not clear to me. Can the person
Mute themselves and ask the question?
Can you clarify the question?
I think the person who's asking the question, can that person unmute himself or herself and ask the question?
Like how game theory is working, some insights. Okay. So game theory is a particular type of analysis, and it has its origin in economics. It is where and then this is game theory. The way it is applied in business is when you try to understand how much you will gain in a space of competition. So in game theory, there are multiple players, okay, and there are gains and losses, and that's what happens in competition also, right? There cannot be a player who will take all the gains. Similarly, there you will not find a winner, a player who will be a total loser, who will not get any customer at all. Okay, so game theory is about maximizing gains in a multiple player scenario. So the way this is applied is when you are in a competition space and you want to understand what is the value that you can leverage out of competition. So you will model it in such a way that you have a number of your competition. You will actually give values of expected gains and losses each of these players will take, and that's kind of an evolution that happens when you model game theory. And you will be able to predict in a realistic manner, let's say market share, how much market share you will end up with in this scenario of competition. There are various ways in which you can do market share prediction, but game theory is one such technique that is used. I hope that answered your question.
Now I think with ma'am, do you have any other questions in the private chat? Because I think the person.
No, I think no, I'm done. I'm not seeing anything else.
Now I request Dr. Lija Jacob, faculty coordinator of the WiBD student chapter at Christ Bindu University Lavasa campus, to deliver the vote of thanks.
Yeah. Am I audible, Pratna?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Good evening, everyone. Respected dignitaries, colleagues, and student participants. So I take it as a great privilege to propose a vote of thanks at this day. First of all, I would like to thank Dr. Fatih Joshi, Director and Dean, who is always with us for the support, as a support in all our activities. I would like to thank our academic coordinator, Father Arun Anthony, for all the advice and support to our department. Let me thank Dr. Bindu Narayan on behalf of our data science department for the insights you have given us, ma'am, today, and opening us the world of analytics in business. Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you, Soumya, ma'am, for joining us and addressing the gathering. Thank you so much. I would like to thank Dr. Samisha Shukla, dear HOD, who is always with giving us the full support, and she takes all the effort to bring the best out of the department. Thank you so much, ma'am. I thank all the faculty members and student coordinators, WIBD student coordinators, and all the participants for making this program a success one. Thank you so much and have a nice day.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Dr.
Thank you.
Samiksha.
Thank you.
Thank you,
With
Dr.
this,
Bija,
we
and
come to
everybody.
the end of the session. Thank you, everybody. Have a great evening.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you,
Thank you,
Pratna.
Bindu ma'am.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Lija ma'am, and all the student member of WIPD.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
We missed taking the picture. Did we? Did anybody take the picture?
Yes, ma'am, we'll share it to you.
Okay, great. Fantastic. Congratulations. Thank you. Bye-bye.